Hi all, welcome to the Women in Data Science Mysuru Meetup 2022. Today's topic is about strategizing and accelerating on-premise data volumes with AWS Datasync. And about myself, I'm Vijay Nirmala Gopal, working as an implementation specialist for AWS Center of Excellence team in Kindle, India. I came up with this use case by looking at the challenges faced by the organizations that were trying to enter into cloud, but they hold a history of data on premise. So this session will explain on how to overcome the challenges in getting onto AWS cloud. Let's begin now. Our agenda today is about to understand on what is actually on-premise and about AWS Datasync service from AWS cloud provider, and how it actually works for on-premise transfers, and how it works for storage services transfers, and also between the cloud providers, how the data is being transferred. The steps to perform data transfer, data sync billing view, logging and monitoring for the AWS Datasync service will be covered as well. So firstly, let's understand what is on-premise. Even if people are aware of the meaning by the word, I would like to highlight the below points when it comes to an on-premise data. On-premise is a physical data center, either rented or owned by the organization to handle the storage and the hosting needs of the company. It provides one central location to store the data that the company or the applications that is generating, processing, retaining their own storage system of choice, and also an access mechanism for the data is defined and configured for the applications and the people to access for various purposes. Ideally, the center is well located in a safe location. It is highly secured, monitored as needed by the data and the organization standards. But the limitations are that the scalability here is limited. When the capacity requirement is always changing, scalability becomes a problem. Once a capacity is planned, improvised, the capacity needs to be utilized to its fullest, as underutilization of the capacity is a waste of time, resources, and money. So the maintenance of storage plant on official premises, staffing on the premises are concerning as they grow in size. Support of this application scaling, deployment are limited, and they are proportionate to the capacity that is available on premise. And it's also the challenges are about licensing and replacement of and renewal of the storage solutions, which are actually a huge game changers, but cannot be made immediately. And also the migration to the new sources will be of additional cost to the organization. So with these limitations, let us see how we can move data on-premise to AWS cloud, for example, S3 here. So this AWS Datasync allows us to copy large data sets with millions of files without having to build custom solutions with open source tools or license and manage expensive commercial network acceleration software. We can use Datasync service to migrate active data to AWS or archive data to free up on-premise storage capacity, replicate data to AWS for business continuity, or even transfer data to the cloud for analysis and processing. Migrating via Datasync is secured as the data is secured in transit. Basically, it selects the most secured option of transfer based on the source location from where it's transferring. And also the data transfer is in rest is as well as secured by the Datasync service. Basically, the location authentication is handled by the agent's public keys, and that is how it's handled. Network traffic are encrypted with TLS protocol and can rapidly migrate by configuring the bandwidth to throttle by definitions in the task creations. And also the scheduling of a transfer task is also possible, and it's also an important feature of Datasync, which makes it more vital for automated transfers. Data movement is supported by seamless scaling by Datasync. It supports transfer of both files and objects as well. Having the data on cloud opens new doors of opportunities and innovation in the field of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, research studies as well. Now, let's see how the AWS Datasync works. AWS Datasync uses an agent that you deploy into your IT environment or into your Amazon EC2 to access your objects using the Amazon S3 API. This agent connects to the Datasync service endpoints within AWS and is securely managed from the AWS Management Console or CLI. Ideal scenario to use the AWS Datasync for ongoing data distribution, data pipelines, and data lake engines, as well as for consolidating or splitting data between multiple buckets. Datasync is ideal for online data transfers as well. You can use Datasync to migrate active data to AWS, transfer data to the cloud for analysis and processing, archive any data to free up the on-premise storage capacity, or replicate data to AWS for business continuity. And here, let's see about Datasync Services that allows us to transfer between storage services. So Datasync is used to transfer between storage services, so that you can replicate, archive, or share application data easily. So this enables you to easily replicate data between your managed file systems for business continuity, as well as copy portions of your data to a different buckets of file systems as needed by evolving application requirements. Benefits of using this feature is that we can configure data transfer tasks between AWS storage services without deploying or managing an on-cloud infrastructure. Couple of use cases to be used here are when we wanted to try to replicate data between regions from moving to S3 data between managed file systems. So these cases are good ones for this type of migration. If a task is interrupted, what happens is that, for instance, if the network connection goes down or the AWS Datasync agent is restarted, the next run of the task will transfer missing files and the data will be complete and consistent at the end of this run. Each time a task is started, it performs an incremental copy, transferring only the changes from the source to the destination. Now coming to the next type of transfer, it is between the cloud providers. So Datasync supports moving data between other public clouds and AWS storage services. In AWS representations given here, we can transfer data from other cloud providers via the Datasync agent in the other cloud provider using AWS Datasync, and the data to be moved to either of the storage services of AWS like S3, EFS, FSX for Windows, FSX for Lustre, or OpenZFS. The same task is reversible as well, which means we can move data from either of these storage services listed above to the other cloud providers too. So this will be an ideal solution for hybrid storage solution and data transfer requirement business use cases as well. And just to know about all of the storage services types, S3 is basically an object storage, simple storage service in AWS, and it retains the objects under the buckets with prefixes as required by the organization. EFS is basically the elastic file system. It's a simple web interface for to be used with the EC2 compute service. It basically creates and configures file systems quickly. It is easy to manage and allows access to from compute instance of up to thousands from multiple availability zones. FSX for Windows File Server. This provides a fully managed storage service for Microsoft Windows File Servers backed by fully native Windows file system. FSX for Lustre helps to run the popular Lustre file system. This is for machine learning, high performance computing, video processing, financial modeling data. FSX for OpenZFS is fully managed storage services to move data from on-prem ZFS or another Linux-based file service to AWS without changing the code or manipulating data. So that is about transferring between the cloud providers. Now there are 8 steps to transfer data from on-premise to AWS cloud. So it basically starts with deploying a Datasync agent and associating it with your AWS account via the management console or API. This agent will be used to access your NFS server, SMB file share, Hadoop cluster, or self-managed or a cloud object storage to read data from it or write data to it. Deploying an agent is not required to transfer data between storage services within the same AWS account. So we start by creating a task by specifying the location of your data, source and destination, and any options you wanted to use to configure the transfer, such as the desired task schedule, start the task, and then monitor the data movement in the console. AWS Datasync copies data when you initiate a task via the management console or the CLI. Each time a task runs, it scans the source and the destination for changes and performs a copy of any data and metadata differences between the source and destination. You can configure which characteristics of the source are used to determine what changed, define filters to include and exclude specific files or folders, and control if files or objects in the destination should be overwritten or not, when changed in the source or deleted, or when not found in the source. Finally, the task performs an integrity checks to ensure that the data written to the destination matches to the data that has been read from the source. Additionally, an optional verification check can be performed to compare source and destination at the end of the transfer. Datasync will calculate and compare full file checksums of the data stored in the source and in the destination. You can check either the entire dataset or just the files or objects that Datasync transferred. So here we start with the 8 steps includes of creating an agent, deploying an agent in your VMware and activating it, choosing a service endpoint, either public or an VPC endpoints, depending on the requirement, configuring a location, which is the source here is on-prem for us, and configure a destination. And in this example, it would be an S3, and now creation and configuration of task. On completion of the task creation, we can start the execution of the task and later view the data in S3. The AWS Datasync costs in the billing view can be viewed against the usage type data transfer in and out in bytes. So in the current scenario of transferring data from an on-premise to S3, we need to look out for data transfer costs in. Costs will be applied against the region to which the transfer occurs as according to the pricing manual of Datasync Service. This is just a glimpse of a billing view against the data transfer costs, which includes in and out bytes as well. But you can always go and select the usage type filters and then include only data transfer in cost for a particular scenario like moving from on-prem to S3. And now we'll also be able to monitor each and every activity that an AWS Datasync is performing. So basically, the Datasync events are collected in AWS CloudWatch, and it processes the raw data from Datasync into a readable, near real-time metrics. These statistics are retained for a period of up to 15 months. Amazon CloudWatch events describe the changes in Datasync resources. We can use these events to set up rules, and when matched with these events, we can route them to a target function or streams as required. Agent events represents if the agent is online or offline. Offline basically means that the VM is unhealthy or the agent health status is not healthy. Location events are to show the progress of a location being added and location now available for use. Task events are about creating an NFS location and creating a task. Running is for showing that the location has been mounted successfully and ready. Available status shows that the task is now ready for use. Unavailable status is to denote that the task is not configured properly. Status changes for task execution means that this becomes a very crucial for tracking the status of the data transfer task. Launching is denoting that the task is initiated. Preparing is when the data sync is computing the files to be transferred. Transferring is when the actual transfer happens. Verifying the process of checking the integrity of the data transfer. And finally, success is denoting a successful transfer of data. We can use CloudTrail for tracking the changes in data sync configurations as well. And now, thanks again for joining us today in WITS Mysuru 2022. Please watch and follow the event meetup page or the LinkedIn page for future updates on the program. Thank you again.